Hey, 8th graders, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're exploring a really fascinating source that breaks down the ultimate blueprint of the American government. Think of a massive skyscraper. Before you can even think about building it, you have to know exactly where the foundation goes, how to balance all that weight, and how to keep the whole thing from just completely collapsing, right? Well, that is exactly what the founders of the United States had to do. But instead of a building, they were constructing a brand new country from scratch.
So let's dive right into this with a massive high-stakes question. What happens when a government gets too powerful? History is literally full of kings, emperors, and dictators who had absolute control. When one person or even a small group holds all the cards, it almost always leads to a terrifying problem. And that problem is tyranny. Tyranny is when unchecked power is used to just crush people's freedoms and rights. You see, the founders of America had just fought a whole revolution to escape a king they felt was tyrannical. So preventing this from ever happening again, that was their absolute top priority.
To understand how they actually tackle this, the HeroesMart curriculum points us to Isaiah 33:22, which says, "For the Lord is our judge, the Lord is our lawgiver, the Lord is our king, it is he who will save us." Now, according to this source, the founders drew on this deeply spiritual concept, and they deliberately separated authority into those three distinct roles. The curriculum suggests they concluded that if God is the only one perfect enough to hold all three of those powers at once, well, no human being should ever be trusted with all of them. This really establishes the philosophical why behind creating a system that splits power up to protect our freedom.
Okay, so here is our roadmap for two. We're going to start with preventing tyranny, then we'll cover limited government, federalism, checks and balances, judicial review, and finally, we'll wrap up with education and morality. Let's start with preventing tyranny in government, the blueprint for freedom. The United States Constitution is this incredibly carefully designed piece of architecture. Every single beam and pillar is placed there to stop any one group from dominating the others.
Which brings us to Principle 1, limited government, meaning no one is above the law. The really crucial point here is that limited government means exactly what it sounds like. The government's power is not infinite. It has strict, hard limits. And the absolute most important limit is that the leaders themselves have to follow the exact same laws as you and me. Imagine playing a game where the referee could just, change the rules whenever they started losing. There's no way that would be fair, right? By insisting that presidents, senators, and judges are bound by the law, the Constitution creates the ultimate defense against tyranny. Basically, you don't have rulers, you have public servants. Moving on to Principle 2, federalism, or sharing the power.
So if limited government limits power by the law, federalism limits power by geography. Federalism just means both state and national governments have specific roles, and they actually share power over the exact same territory. Instead of hoarding all the decision-making in one central place, like Washington, D.C., power is distributed across the entire country. It's really a team effort where different levels of government handle different types of problems. For example, states are responsible for things close to home, like running your local schools. And that makes sense. They know the community way better than someone sitting 1,000 miles away. But the national or federal government, they handle the massive duties that affect everyone, like running the military to protect the whole country. By dividing these duties up, neither the state nor the federal government gets to control every single aspect of your life.
Next up is Principle 3, checks and balances, which is all about policing each other.
Remember those three powers we talked about a minute ago? Lawgiver, king, and judge? Well, the founders split them into three branches. You've got Congress making the laws, the president enforcing them, and the Supreme Court interpreting them. But they didn't just split them up. They actually gave each branch weapons to block the others. Let's look at how this works. Step 1, Congress passes a law they really like. But in step 2, if the president thinks it's a terrible law, they can use their power to veto or reject it. Boom, that's a check. But wait, in step 3, Congress can actually override that veto if 2/3 of them vote for it. It is an incredible ongoing tug-of-war that pretty much forces everyone to compromise.
Now let's look at judicial review in action, the ultimate check. Let's dive just a bit deeper into how the courts play into this giant game of tug-of-war. Congress and the president are super powerful, absolutely. But the judicial branch, the courts, has a massive trump card. Through a process called judicial review, the courts can look at a law Congress passed and the president signed, and they can literally declare it unconstitutional. That means the law violates the rules of the blueprint, the Constitution. If that happens, the law is thrown out immediately. The courts act as this ultimate referee mechanism, ensuring that no matter how incredibly popular a president or Congress might be, they can never ever step outside the bounds of the Constitution.
Okay, to bring it all together, the curriculum highlights 5 key review points for your homework. First, defining limited government, just remember, nobody is above the law. Second, spotting federalism in action. Think about who runs your local schools versus who runs the national military. Third and fourth, identifying how the president and Congress check each other, like the power of the veto and the ability to override it. And finally, number 5, understanding judicial review, with the courts stepping in as the ultimate referee. You've totally got this.
All right, moving into our final section. True education requires morality, the HeroesMart Academy philosophy.
Shifting gears from the mechanics of governments into philosophy, the curriculum argues that education without morality will actually hurt, and that just being smart doesn't prevent you from making bad choices. According to this philosophy, you could know exactly how the 3 branches of government work. You could literally be the smartest person in the room, but it means very little if your choices still end up causing pain. The curriculum compares a highly educated person who lacks a moral compass to a powerful sports car with no steering wheel. Eventually, it's just going to crash. True learning in this framework means pairing your intellectual smarts with a really strong foundation of biblical morality. It insists that doing the right thing is just as important as knowing all the facts. The source wraps all this up with Romans 8:6-7, highlighting the promise of peace for a spiritual mind. The overarching message of the curriculum here is that intertwining your education with spiritual grounding builds a wise, peaceful, and purposeful life, rather than just, memorizing a bunch of facts. So based on this framework, I want to leave you with a question to really think about. How will you use the knowledge you gain today to make morally sound choices that positively impact your own community? Thanks for hanging out with me for this Explainer, 8th graders. Stay curious, stay principled, and I'll see you next time.